All right, so get ready because today we are really diving deep into behavioral economics, like where your brain and your wallet kind of go to war.
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered like why you make decisions about money that just seem kind of irrational?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not the only one.
Definitely not, because like traditional economics, with its idea of the perfectly rational person making decisions, it just doesn't really line up with how people act in the real world, right? Like we're not robots.
Exactly. And so we're going to talk all about like the psychology behind how you make choices about money.
Mhm.
And believe me, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And we're ditching those like economics textbook models,
Yeah.
and we're going into this world of behavioral economics where we use psychology to understand how people actually make decisions about money, not those perfect models.
Like, why is it one day I'll splurge and get like a fancy latte, but then the next day I'm like clipping coupons for like a can of beans?
Yeah, or like why you buy a car based on emotion
Totally.
versus like the actual practicality of it. So traditional economics would tell us we're all what they call homo economicus, or econs for short, always making these perfectly rational choices to, get the most at everything.
So econs would never understand like the allure of a buy one, get one free sale.
Oh,
They'd be all about that, like, cost benefit analysis.
exactly.
That's not how we work.
But we humans, we're driven by our emotions. We're influenced by like everyone around us. And sometimes we just take mental shortcuts.
And those shortcuts can lead to some pretty interesting outcomes. Like, remember when I was telling you about that study about New York City taxi drivers?
Oh, yeah. The ones who like clock out early when it's really busy. It seems kind of backwards.
It seems like the opposite of what you should do, right? Like more demand, more hours you could work, more money you could make.
That's what econ would do.
Yeah.
But when you add in things like people get tired, they want their reward now, it starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah, like if they meet a certain like goal they set for themselves, they're like, okay, I'm going to stop here. I don't want to burn myself out. I want to enjoy this. I can always work more tomorrow. They're
Exactly.
playing the long game.
Exactly. What seems irrational on the surface can actually be a really smart strategy when you consider all of the human needs and motivations that aren't always like money focused.
Yeah. So even seemingly irrational behavior might be maximizing something else entirely, like peace of mind or avoiding burnout. It really makes you think twice about that always on mentality, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Okay, you ready to go even deeper into some more of these fascinating quirks?
Yeah, let's do it.
So if we're not always like totally logical with money, what else is like making our decisions for us?
Well, our brains are kind of hardwired for efficiency, even if that means taking some shortcuts sometimes.
Okay.
And these shortcuts, sometimes called heuristics, help us make quick decisions in a world that's like really complicated. There's a lot going on.
Okay, so is that like when I see a really long line outside a bakery, I'm like, oh, their stuff must be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
called the availability heuristic.
Okay.
We judge how likely something is to happen based on like how easy it is to think of an example.
Oh, okay.
So like shark attacks,
Okay.
they're really rare,
Right.
but they're vivid. We can picture them, so we worry about them way more than we need to.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, we underestimate risks that are more common because they're just not as exciting to think about.
It's so crazy how our brains can just like trick us like that.
Yeah.
Wild.
And it's not just about like how, something comes to mind. Remember that time you bought those concert tickets just because they were advertised as like 90% sold out?
Oh my God. Total impulse buy, but hey,
No judgment.
don't judge.
That's like a classic example of what we call framing.
Framing, okay.
So the way that choices are presented to us, even if like at the end of the day they're the same, it can really change how we make decisions.
Oh, so it's like when they say buy one, get one 50% off instead of 25% off each.
Exactly.
It's the same math.
Same math, but it feels different.
It feels very different, yeah.
And it's not just about like clever words either. Think about like the money illusion and how that messes with how we think about what things are worth.
Money illusion. Okay, I like it. Tell me more.
Okay, imagine you get a 3% raise at your job.
Okay, sounds pretty good.
Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
But then inflation is at 5%.
Oh, okay, so I'm actually losing money,
You're not really getting a raise.
even though it feels like it.
Exactly. We tend to focus on that number, that 3%, and not the bigger picture.
So sneaky how our brain can get like so focused on those numbers and we kind of like forget to zoom out and look at what's actually happening.
Yeah, and you're not alone. Even monkeys seem to get this idea of fairness. And it's Their reactions are much more entertaining to watch, actually.
Okay, so we've established humans aren't always, like, the best at making economic
We're
decisions.
not always the most rational.
But what about monkeys? Like, what can they even teach us about behavioral economics?
Well, you might be surprised. There was this really interesting experiment where capuchin monkeys, they learned to exchange these tokens for food.
Okay.
And at first, everything was fine. They were all happy to make their trades.
They're getting snacks, everybody wins?
Exactly. And then they saw another monkey getting a grape for the
Mhm.
same token.
Hold on, are you saying monkeys can get jealous of grapes?
Yeah, well, let's just say those monkeys were not having it. They started throwing those tokens back at the researchers like, I don't want this.
No way.
They refused to participate.
So they understood, like, fairness, even if it meant, like, they didn't get a snack at all.
It seems so. And this is actually similar to something we see with humans. It's called the ultimatum game, where people will actually reject an offer if they think it's unfair, even if it means they get nothing.
Wow, so it's like, if I can't have it, no one can.
Right. Or like, if it's not fair, I don't want it.
Exactly.
Shows how important fairness is to us when we're making decisions.
Yeah, and this all ties into, like, this idea of nudges, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me everything. Give me all the behavioral economics life hacks.
Okay, so nudges, just imagine like subtle ways to kind of push people towards making better choices without actually like making them do anything, without restricting their freedom at all.
Mhm.
So instead of like forcing everyone to eat their vegetables, you make the healthy option like more appealing, easier to grab.
You make it the easy choice.
Exactly. And a really good example of this is like automatic enrollment in retirement savings plans.
Oh, you mean instead of making people sign up themselves,
Yeah.
you just do it for them and they can opt out if they
Hmm.
want?
And you know what? When they did that, participation went way up.
Because it's like the default.
Yeah, and we humans, we don't like to put in a lot of effort.
We love the easy way.
Exactly. If it takes effort, we're just going to be like, ugh, never mind.
Probably, yeah.
And there's actually a whole framework for this. It's called Mindspace, and it lays out all these principles about how to influence behavior. And we can use these principles to design like systems and stuff that can help people make choices that are better for them, better for everyone.
So, like, making the healthy food, like, right up front in the cafeteria so you see it first,
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Exactly. Or like using social norms to get people to save energy.
I love that. But doesn't this, like, bring up some questions about, well, who gets to decide what the right choice even is?
Yeah, you're totally right. It's something people are still figuring out. How do we balance this idea of nudging with like letting people make their own choices?
Right, because it could be misused.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah. Big responsibility.
Wow, this has been, like, really eye-opening. I feel like I'm going to be noticing these nudges everywhere I go now.
Oh, you will.
Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of behavioral economics. It was fascinating.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And until next time, keep those cognitive biases in check, everyone.